The Sabu spring break story has been one that has been problematic since it occurred, to be fair. A lot of people was unnerved by the idea of 60-year-old Sabu working a wrestling match at all in April of 2025, let alone needed some assistance to get into the ring. So, Joey Janela revealed in an interview that some people gave Sabu some kind of drug to get him to perform at the spring break show, WrestleMania weekend 2025. The internet blows up as GCW is accused of drugging Sabu to force him to perform. And look, I want to lay everything out first and then we'll get into my thoughts. Let's go into this article first. So the article is by a gentleman by the name of Phil Schneider, who I think a lot of us know because he's in the wrestling space. He's been in the wrestling space for quite a while. It's an entire piece about Sabu's final match, his career, etc. Apparently this thing was in progress when Sabu passed away. But let's get into the meat of the matter. Brett Lauderdale, the owner of GCW, says, quote, "I talked to Sabu a couple of days before the match, and he was telling me my knee hurts and this and that. And I said, listen, Sabu, everybody knows you're hurting. You're 20-something years older than the last time you did this. People's expectations are realistic. No one is expecting this to be born to be wired." And he said to me, good, because it's going to be better than that. So Joey Janela then says, I was fairly confident that he was fine. I was kept in contact with him, and he has a team of people around him, guys this time. They were all saying he was ready to go, that he was going to the gym, that he was on a training program. I believed them until the day of the show. Then 2 hours before, I get a call. Sabu can't walk. What do you mean Sabu can't walk? They said, yeah, Sabu, something with his knee. They're locked up. He can't walk. And his feet are bleeding. He's not coming. Sabu's not coming. Sabu's fucked. So we talked about indie wrestler Matt Tremont. And Tremont is about to be the replacement for the match. And I feel like this is going to be the most embarrassing moment of my career. There's 2,000 people here. This is one of the biggest spring breaks ever. The biggest crowd mania weekend indie-wise. And I'm going to have to go out there and announce that Sabu once again no-showed his own retirement match. Brett Lauderdale then cuts back in and says, in the back of my mind, I knew Sabu was coming. I never once worried. If we didn't hear from Sabu, then I would be worried. But the fact that he was communicating, I knew he was coming. So Janela says, we are an hour into the show. And I said, just get Sabu here. So they gave him something called Kratom. You can buy it in a smoke shop or something. It's like a legal opiate or something. They said he's hopping on the bed, he's hopping off the bed, and we're going to get him into the show. So he shows up 2 hours into the show. Sabu was on a different fucking planet. Everyone in the backstage was like, what the fuck? Is this match going to happen? And my God, did it happen. Close quote. That is how it was written in the article. So everybody starts looking up with Kratom. What is this thing, Kratom? So I looked it up because of course I do. And I go to FDA.gov. It says Kratom is a tropical tree that is native to Southeast Asia. Products prepared from Kratom leaves are available in the U.S. through sales on the internet and brick-and-mortar stores. Kratom is often used to self-treat conditions such as pain, coughing, diarrhea, anxiety, and depression, opioid use disorder, and opioid withdrawal. But this is not an FDA-approved drug. And, of course, it has a incredible list of side effects that I'm not going to go into. But it says kratom is not lawfully marketed in the U.S. as a drug product, a dietary supplement, or a food additive in conventional food. So they bought what is the equivalent of gas station dick pills and threw them down the throat of a 60-year-old man. Now, this, of course, upset everybody who read this article, even me, and I'm pretty difficult to upset. But they even got me with this one. Then Joey Janela is attacked online because there's the belief that it was the GCW crew that gave Sabu the kratom. So on Twitter, Joey Janela defends himself by saying, we didn't give him kratom, his team did. It's also not legal, and 85% of professional wrestlers do it, especially the ones on TV. So fuck you. People use kratom to get off pills. I didn't give shit to him. Unfortunately, people are acting like I shot someone up with black tar heroin or dropped something in his drink. Sabu was a grown man. He did what he had to do to get out there. I took care of him to the best of my ability. I didn't think what happened halfway through would happen. It was all to get him one great payday and one last shine in the spotlight. That night wasn't about me. It was about Sabu, and I wouldn't change a thing. It wasn't about me. It was about Sabu, but you were embarrassed if Sabu couldn't show up. Now, he was being put in the GCW Independent Hall of Fame. This was been last year. And Sabu no-showed the event. Kind of embarrassed them, just didn't show up. And then when he was asked why, he just basically said he changed his mind. So they were concerned that he would do the same thing this year. Except for this time, he was actually going to wrestle. Now, Sabu did end up working the match, clearly. And a couple of really ugly spots. Namely, one where he ended up skirting all over the ground outside the ring, covered in barbed wire, really bothered some people that weekend when it occurred. But now that he's passed away, people are extra angry and really looking for somebody to be mad about at. And they decided Joey Janela and Brett Lauderdale are the two people to be mad at. Now, Emil J., who works in GCW, says, quote, "Oh, great. A bunch of people born after the year 2000 are, if not blaming outright, they are at least implicating that the Joey Janela-Sabu match played a role in Sabu's death, and I'm begging each and every one of them to 1, get a grip, 2, experience real life, and 3, fuck themselves." Well, I gotta tell you, Emil, I don't blame the match for Sabu's death, but we don't know a cause of death yet. Some people are saying, well, he was drinking beers and having fun on podcasts afterwards, which, okay, he didn't go to intensive care and lay up in the hospital for a month. That don't mean that he probably didn't have some serious damage done to him that he pretty much overlooked. I mean, he is Sabu, for God's sake. It's entirely possible he was fucked up and then just said, put some tape on it and just walked away from it. I mean, he is Sabu. I mean, when they're talking about the drugs and everything, everybody's like, well, you know, Sabu did a bunch of drugs in the 90s and all this kind of stuff, right? Like the ECW locker room was real bad. It's like, yeah, but that was 30 years ago. Your body's not the same at 60 as it is at 30. Nobody knows what the hell's going to happen to you. You take the wrong thing at 60. You know, these bumps are way different at 60 too. So, but Brett Lauderdale himself decided to go into the notes pad and try to defend himself and their behavior. He says, quote, "Sabu was my friend and I was devastated to learn of his passing." And then we get into what he actually wrote in the notes pad. He says, "As a rule, I try not to respond to every claim made on social media. And sometimes I need to speak up and get on the record. When I received word of Sabu's passing on Sunday, I was devastated. I've known Sabu personally for almost 20 years, and I've been in constant contact with him for the last 2 years. We were friends, and I cared about him and have had a deep respect for him. In the months leading up to the match, I told him repeatedly how much I believed in him and how excited I was for him to finally get his flowers and be celebrated the way he had earned and deserved. He was both nervous and excited, but determined to give the fans one last extreme performance to remember. Any suggestion that I, or GCW, or Joey Janela forced him to do this match, supplied him with substances, or somehow caused his death is irresponsible, disingenuous, hurtful, and false. It's upsetting and discouraging to see people so eager to cast judgment without knowledge of the facts. I would never knowingly put someone who I believed was a danger to themselves or others in the ring, and my track record shows this to be true. I have pulled people in public and painful manner from big matches before, sometimes literal moments before a match was to begin, and I would do it again if I had to. I spoke to Sabu moments before the match, and he was Sabu. He was the same Sabu I had encountered in years past when I participated in his matches as a referee and later as a promoter. He was the same Sabu I met the following day at WrestleCon, and the same Sabu that made multiple appearances on podcasts and at conventions in the weeks that followed. The truth is, Sabu lived a hard life, both in and outside of the ring. He was fearless and reckless, qualities that both endeared him to millions and made us worry about him at the same time. Decades of extreme took its toll, and no matter what we want to believe, nobody is immortal. While Sabu will live forever, Terry Brunk will not, and unfortunately his time has finally come. It's sad, and my heart goes out to his friends and family, and I join them in mourning his loss. I feel lucky and blessed to have known him, and I am proud to have been able to host his final match. Sabu was a legend, and his impact in our world was immeasurable. He will never be forgotten. So, that is all the important bits. A lot of the fans are still blaming GCW. And I'm going to admit, GCW is not a company that is above cutting corners. They were notoriously called out for COVID, basically faking COVID tests in order to get the shows done. They, of course, have done all kinds of weird things on screen, sexual perversions and all this sort of stuff on screen. But they've also done a bunch of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, weird things off screen. There was a lot of money tied up in this Joey Janela spring break, Sabu's last match thing. There was a lot of money tied up in that. Was it enough to put Sabu's life at risk? I don't know. Was it that Sabu looked at the amount of money he was going to make and said, hey, this might be one last payday. Let's do whatever it takes to get in the ring? It's entirely possible. The thing is, the GCW crew knew he had taken something. And they knew it was a stimulant. And they knew that he went from not being able to walk to now he's jumping up and down and he's actually going to go out there and wrestle. That it might have been suspicious. I would be suspicious. But would I have stopped it? Probably not. You have to trust his team, which is what they're doing. And if they gave him something and he was fine afterwards, and he was fine. But the issue here is people don't know enough about what kratom is. It's one of those weird things that you have to, read the back of the bottles to know what the hell is in it. And who would ever be in a position to take that stuff or want to take that stuff? And who knows how much of that shit he took as well. And who knows, that might not even been the only time he took it. He might have been taking it every day since. When somebody, if he goes from not being able to walk to not only can he walk, but he can wrestle, And then we know a few days afterwards he was talking about wrestling again. So that means he was feeling okay and wanted to at least do it again. Unlike Flair, who like damn near died outside the ring. Then you have to ask the question, was he hooked on something? Now, we will find out when the toxicology and autopsy and all that sort of stuff is done. If we ever find out, who knows, that stuff might just be thrown in the bin and we don't get any answers to these questions. But I will say, the idea that Sabu is irresponsible and that GCW is irresponsible, but this is what independent wrestling is based on. As an independent, wrestling company, if he can perform, he can go. I mean, GCW is not WWE. It's not AEW. They weren't working with Sabu the day before or the day before that. There's no expectation that Sabu is going to be tested for drugs and alcohol or anything like that. I don't think GCW even tests people for that stuff. It's an indie wrestling show. You come as you are. But I'm not ready to bury them quite yet. But I do think it's suspicious. And I do also, look, I'm at this point in my life where I don't really need 60-year-old people wrestling. I don't think it was a good idea for Sabu to have a barbed wire match at 60 years old. I don't think that was smart in general. Because he put his body through a whole lot of trauma for one night. And look, that might be fun. It might have ruled ass, as people say. But overall, he's a 60-year-old man. He's getting hit in the head with chairs. He's falling down. He's losing blood. This stuff is much different at 60 than it is at 30. And it says a lot to me because it's very poetic that Sabu started his career basically with his uncle, who was doing the exact same thing. His uncle was in his 60s, going out doing barbed wire matches. He could barely move. He was going out doing fire matches. He could barely get out of the ring during the fire match and ended up burning himself. And then Sabu is 60 some odd years old out there with a young Joey Janela. And he's falling face first into barbed wire. He's blasting through the ropes and landing damn near on his head. And look, he survived it, clearly. Got up and walked away. But who knows what kind of help he had getting in the ring or getting out of it. And it's not just the kratom. Did he take the kratom? How much did he take? We don't know. It's irresponsible for him to have a final match. Like at 60, he should not have been medically cleared. If he could not walk, how was he cleared to wrestle? Who cleared him to wrestle? Where is GCW's medical team? Do they have a medical team? I mean, these are all like sort of important questions, but at the same time, it's GCW. It's an indie company. It's not WWE. It's not AEW. You have to start asking, like, what doctors gave him the thumbs up to go out there if his knees are locking up? I'm almost certain no legitimate doctor told Sabu to go out there and, wrestle around in barbed wire. He just did it because this is the kind of shit that he does. And this is why people don't take it seriously when you're trying to concern troll Sabu. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, how are you going to do that? This guy's been wrestling in fire and thumbtacks and barbed wire and all kinds of stuff for 40 years. Now, all of a sudden, y'all concerned about him? It's like, yeah, but some people were concerned about him when he was 28, too, But he was young and it was okay. He'll heal. When he's 60, those injuries last a little bit longer. And you take substances when you're younger to get through those matches. So what are you taking to get through those matches at 60? Ultimately, do I think it was the kratom? I don't know. It's probably a combination of everything. Drinking, depression, because his wife had passed away 3 or 4 years ago, lingering injuries, not taking care of himself, body just gave out. It might be a collection of a bunch of things. But GCW should definitely be called out because they booked one final match for Sabu, and clearly there was some concerns about his ability to perform that they knew about. Even before he took the pill, he could barely walk. And this was their admission. There should have been somebody from some medical team to say, yeah, we're not sure if we can medically clear Sabu. Then he wouldn't have needed to take the pill. Because taking the pill wouldn't have changed anything. He would not have been medically cleared to perform. But when it's an indie company, it's an indie promotion, they're running everything out of the trunk of the car, who knows what the fuck is happening? Do I think they'll be sued or anything like that? No, I don't think so. I think that there's just going to be some fans out there who are going to look at GCW like it's a scumbag company run by a scumbag promoter with a bunch of scumbag wrestlers, a lot of whom are on drugs and some of them are, and they do death matches, hit each other with light tubes, fire, thumbtacks, all that stuff. It's basically ECW's grandson. I definitely think ECW is not blameless. I don't think that they had nothing to do with it. It's like, well, you knew he couldn't walk. You know? Do I think it was a direct link between GCW's behavior and Sabu passing away? Probably not. I don't think that's fair. At least without knowing cause of death and looking at the toxicology and all that, I don't think it's fair to blame GCW for this. But it's the culture around indie wrestling, the culture around deathmatch wrestling in general that causes this sort of stuff. These guys put each other through so much pain and suffering and open wounds. You never know who's got an infection, who's got hepatitis, who's got, whatever. And then they conk out or they can't work anymore and it becomes a whole new set of problems. But let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session. But you got an affection for no progression, regression. The best don't